Dear colleagues, we continue our work, and the next topic is the second birthday in captivity of the DPR, when the Ukrainian scientist Igor Kozlovsky will be released. Our guests are Valentyna Kozlovska, wife of Igor Kozlovsky, Denis Kozlovsky, his nephew, and Diana Kozlovska, his niece, and Yaroslav Kozlovsky, son of Igor Kozlovsky. First, I give the floor to Denis. Good morning, thank you for coming to our short press conference. In fact, we didn't think that once we will have to hold such press conferences. But this is the only thing we can do. We should attract the attention of international media to this problem, because more than during 1 year we tried to release our relative Igor Kozlovsky. We addressed to international organizations, the OSCE, the Red Cross, the UN. We addressed to their offices, to their local representatives. We addressed people who are working on the temporary occupied territories in the Donetsk region. But as you know, international organizations have very little influence on those territories. They have no access to detention places. They have no access at all. Of course, we address to all Ukrainian authorities, and we constantly communicate with the Ukrainian delegation within the Minsk format. And almost every time within these negotiations, the issue of Igor Kozlovsky is discussed. But as you understand, the DPR always finds reasons to refuse. They motivate their refuse, for example, by the fact that Igor is a citizen of DPR, but I cannot explain how they could decide that he is a citizen of DPR. They refuse to include him into the list of prisoners that should be released. And unfortunately, we have practically no hope that he will be included into that he will put on a list and released. We tried to influence the DPR members through businesses, through representatives of religious organizations, Christian organizations, Muslim organizations. We wrote addresses to a lot of organizations and communities, both in Ukraine, in Russia, and abroad. We addressed various diplomatic missions, and a number of them reacted and tried to do something. In particular, the U.S. ambassador in several days after Igor has been arrested, called in his Twitter to release him. But as you can see, all these efforts were in vain, and in present he's still in imprisonment. As of today, this is 387 days. I have finished my opening, and I give the floor to Valentyna Kozlovska. Good morning. The last time I heard something from him was on December 6th. He just called me and said me some words that he's okay, and he tries to keep courage. Of course, it is very hard for us. We know nothing. Just very small pieces of information communicated through his lawyer. Sometimes we hear news from him, and the last what we heard from him was the document with accusations. Igor says he tries to keep courage. Of course, he has problems with health, and there is few light in his cell. He cannot read normally. Of course, it is not normal when someone's life is limited by four walls in a cold cellar. It is not right when in the center of Europe in the 21st century, those people who were scientists, who worked as professors and taught students, are imprisoned in this way. And he stays there for a long time. He's deprived of everything he loved, of everything that he was doing. He has always been working. He never had rest. He was never idling. He has always been working, and this situation is really horrible for him. And the worst thing that I see no perspective. We cannot imagine what the DPR can imagine what they may do with him. Of course, all these accusations are not true. It was prepared during 2015-2016, and now this goes on and on. They cannot accuse him of anything, but they continue keeping him in imprisonment. I see no perspective. I don't know what to do. Thank you, Valentyna. I give the floor to Diana Kozlovska, niece of Igor Kozlovsky. Thank you for your attention to the topic. The lawyer of the so-called DPR, in fact, the police officer that is investigating his case gave him documents on accusation, and these accusations are given according to the so-called criminal code of the DPR. They accuse him in violation of Article 256 that he allegedly was keeping explosive devices at home. It is very strange to read this document because when you see that a person taking care of a paralyzed of a very ill son was keeping explosive devices at home, you feel that it sounds absolutely wrong. It does not. There is no logic in these fabricated documents. It is this document has 6 pages and is drafted of words of witnesses, and no one knows who these people were. In fact, maybe someone there understands that all these accusations are wrong, but I suppose that they will continue it just to show that everything was according to their law. Before that, every 2 months, he was receiving notifications that his detention was prolonged by 2 months, and we have already 387 days. Today, we received notification on December 14th. It was a preliminary hearing when this case and this case now is being analyzed. We hope that the international organization will do something, and everyone who can influence these people will do it. The main thing is not to forget that he is there, and to remember that a person who worked for the good of Ukraine throughout all his life is now in such a situation. And no one, neither organization nor a person, can predict what will be the end of this story, and all our efforts are in vain. I would like to hope that strength of his spirit, and he has always had a unique strength of spirit, will help him to keep courage until he will be released. Thank you, Diane. I give the floor to Alexander Kozlovsky, son of Igor Kozlovsky. Good morning. We organized this press conference because today Igor is 67. This is his second anniversary in prison. Of course, we wish him courage and good health. We wish him. We want to tell him that Father, we love you, and we address the international community with the request to help us in this difficult issue, and we also address to a scientific community because Father has been working throughout his life in this field, and we also call the diplomatic missions to address attention to address this issue in their countries. And perhaps people who may influence this process will do something. In fact, this is all. Thank you for your attention. Dear colleagues, maybe you have questions? Good morning, Katerina Zavada, Ukraine Forum. My condolences to you. I really hope there will be end to this story, a positive end. My question deals my question will be to Diana. You told us what steps have been doing the DPR and Ukrainian authorities. Does Igor Kozlovsky has any legal status? Is he considered to be a hostage or a prisoner of war? How is this? I'll give the floor to Denis because he had experience of communication with Irina Gerashchenko. He knows more. Thank you for your question. As far as I know, the Ukrainian side included him, put him on a list of Ukrainian hostages, and he has a status of hostage who is temporarily detained. Is this legally a hostage or something else? We don't know exactly. The only thing we know that he is on a list from the Ukrainian side, and that this issue is discussed within the Minsk process, and this situation is monitored by the appropriate authorities. We also wrote a number of letters. I forgot to mention it at first. We wrote letters to the presidential administration of Ukraine, and in 2 weeks, it happened in summer, I can't say the dates exactly, and 2 weeks later we received an official notification from the security service of Ukraine, where they said, thank you for your information, we know about the problem, and we are trying to find a solution. And this was everything we heard from them. So, in fact, he has the same status as all Ukrainians who are on an exchange list. One more question. In your opinion, what is the real reason of his detention? As far as we understand, there is no exact reason for his detention. It was just a set of circumstances, of maybe kind of accusations from someone. And I suppose that someone knew about his Ukrainian position and monitored what he's doing, just waiting for the moment when it will be a good time to arrest him. We remember the flow of events. It was a kind of allegedly terror act in Donetsk related to explosion near memorial to Lenin, and after this it was a number of detention, and one of these persons who were detained was Igor Kozlovsky. It happened one day after this so-called terrorist attack. This is what we can see, but there is no other exact reason, real reason that could be visible at once. The only thing I can say that there is rather big attention to his personality, because he was among organizers of a prayer for unity and peace in Ukraine. It was an interconfessional prayer campaign, and this campaign lasted from beginning of March to October 2014. So from the very moment when all this started and until the moment when Donetsk was completely occupied, the very representatives of Christian communities, of Muslims, many people were coming there, and he has been standing there with Ukrainian flag. Several people who participated there then has been kidnapped from there. So I suppose this may be one of the reasons of his detention. One more question. Igor Kozlovsky was professor in the Donetsk National University. Do you know maybe one of his previous former colleagues made statements in support of Igor? We can address this question to one of his students, for example, Victoria. Yes, I am a student of Igor Anatolievich, and he was a professor in the Donetsk Technical University, and his main field of activity is related with the Institute of Philosophy. We gathered signatures of well-known scientists under the address in favor of his release. There were scientists from Ukraine and from abroad. And there was a particular letter from the Institute of Philosophy. Do you have any other questions? Yes, one more. I would like to say you gave political explanation of the problem. Could you explain, please? You mentioned that Igor Kozlovsky is a Protestant, and he belonged to that confession. At least I heard this in the internet. Can this be considered as religious persecution? Perhaps I'm wrong, and these are just rumors. And the second question is about situation in general. You say that he was taking care of his very ill son. Could you tell more, just to let people explain, just to explain the people why Igor Kozlovsky couldn't leave Donetsk earlier? I'll start from the second part of your question. Valentyna will say more about the situation with the son, and then I'll give a comment about religious persecution. Our elder son, Svetoslav, born in '79, he suffered from Down syndrome. He broke his backbone when he was when he was a teenager. When all this happened in 2014, I mean the war, I was moving between the cities, but Igor continued to teach as professor there, but then I went to Kiev and he stayed in Donetsk with our son. In that moment, we already decided that we have to move to Kiev with all our family, but it was too late. I moved to Kiev in October, and then in 2016 I was bringing some of food for him in prison. But now we have already moved to Kiev, both me and the son, and I'm working now. And as the so-called security service took the documents of our son, and without these documents we could not cross the contact line. Then fortunately our multiple requests to the authorities and Commissioner for Human Rights, we finally received these documents back and we were able to leave the occupied territories. And as Igor Kozlovsky was responsible for taking care of him, now the son is deprived of money that he received from the state because of the situation. So here is the situation. Denis, you would like to add? Yes, about religious persecution. Igor Anatolievich has been studying various religions since his young years. He was a specialist, an expert in religions. It's hard to say what religious beliefs he had personally, because for him all these religious beliefs were just like various connotations of one thing. And he tried to communicate with the representatives of all religions. And he was in this interconfessional center that had regular meetings to find common, to build common dialogue between the various religions. And he knew all these a lot of well-known religions, Buddhism, Christianism, Islam, a lot of religions, to very small details. This helped him to have a very profound dialogue with representatives of all religions, and this helped all of them to achieve very good results, very good common understanding. Excuse me, unfortunately we have to end our press conference here. I wish you good luck. Thank you. Dear colleagues, the next event will start in 2 minutes. Dear colleagues, journalists, if you want to ask questions, please do it